Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Today, I only want to talk, I'm not going to showcase it, but I only want to talk about my experience with the MetaQuest 3S VR headset. As you maybe remember from my last video about this device, I bought this specifically for VR boxing and to utilize it for my fitness routine. So previously I had the Quest 1, so a very old generation of the Quest headset, on which I was still able to play Thrill of the Fight version 1. And that game is amazing. It's a really good game for VR boxing, and I would argue it is one of the best experiences when it comes down to boxing. Can I say that because I didn't play that many, but not the best. But I think it is a really good tool to kind of practice. I wouldn't say that this is the place to learn boxing, but if you are actually training boxing and are able to learn the correct way to punch and to slip, roll and stuff like that, then I think it is a good addition to your regular boxing training. If you don't train, I fear that you potentially create habits that are wrong. For example, punching the wrong way, potentially then hurting yourself, because with these kinds of games there is a lot of potential to kind of overextend your arm a little bit too much. I also utilize weighted arm wrist. So I put weights on my wrist just to kind of also have a little bit of resistance training, but also to prevent myself from accidentally overextending my hands or my arms. So when I plan to buy an updated version, I wanted to use it to play Thrill of the Fight Part 2, but I also thought, okay, I want augmented reality for this boxing experience, because this would be a little bit better in my smaller, in air quotes, office room where I use that. And truth to be told, it's augmented reality boxing doesn't work for me, because there is, although I do know where I am in space, I felt like with fast-paced movement like boxing, the augmented reality wasn't able to kind of keep up with my movements, and therefore I was getting motion sick. So I stuck to the regular version of Thrill of the Fight 2. Now, so then you could argue, oh, do you actually need a new headset? And then I would say yes, to play Thrill of the Fight 2. However, I noticed that in Thrill of the Fight 2, the AI, the enemies are really good. So it is much more realistic of a fighting scenario. But I noticed that my punches, although I'm pretty certain that my distance and where I'm hitting was correct, it sometimes doesn't register that I actually hit my opponent, and sometimes even if I hit, it doesn't kind of calculate the correct power, because again, I do sparring. I know when one of my punches hits, and for some reason sometimes it doesn't recognize it. That is a rare occasion, but it does happen. But most of the time, it doesn't calculate the power correctly. So I'm doing a proper 3-combination combo, ending with an uppercut, and it seems to me like the power isn't calculated. Furthermore, in Thrill of the Fight 1, you actually notice much better in terms of sound and vibration of the controllers that you actually hit. So that begs the question, did I actually need to upgrade if Thrill of the Fight actually was better and I did not need, or I'm not utilizing augmented reality for this? Yes, because for this headset, and I can totally say the OEM strap that you get with these headsets from Meta, they're terrible. They are really terrible. They suck, especially if you use them for fitness. So what I got is the BoboVR headset, which has a battery pack at the back. But this battery pack, for me, for my workout sessions, I'm not going longer than an hour max. Usually I'm going for 2 to 3 fights with 3 rounds, 3 minutes. So that is plenty of workout. So I don't deplete the internal battery actually. But the external battery is in the back of your head and gives you a little bit more of a counterweight. Plus this BoboVR, I didn't choose it for the name, by the way, but this was one that was heavily suggested. This actually puts the weight on top of your head and balances it out much more properly. Plus, it has this really tight, but not too tight, ratcheting system to securely mount the headset on your head. There is like this honeycomb accessory inside. I would really recommend to use that because it actually supports the headset even more on the back of your head to not slip away. So with that headset, fitness games on VR are much better. And therefore, just for that new strap alone, the upgrade to the Quest, I always forget the number, 3S, the Quest 3S has been extremely good. Plus, the overall fidelity and image quality of the 3S is obviously much better. There has been one comment that asked, hey, why didn't you get the 3 instead of the 3S, which is cheaper? And my argument is, I just know that I am prone to motion sickness, so I did not really want to invest more money in the 3 just for better image quality that I probably don't really need. I use it for fitness and yes, for shooting games and stuff like that. The 3 would have been much better, but I just know I get motion sick. I am playing as well Gunstock VR. That is a shooting game that works really well because there are a couple of places where you don't move. There are some levels where you have to move, and I noticed right away, I get motion sickness right away. So again, this is the argument for me getting the 3S instead of the 3. So going back to why I'm using it, for fitness, I can heavily recommend using this in addition to your other workouts. So what I'm doing every morning, if I'm not like now going to boxing gym, I'm doing jump ropes for 15 minutes. Then I do kettlebell training. And then I'm doing boxing VR. And that has been an amazing cardio and strength training workout for me. This is about, I would say, 40 minutes each day. But if I don't have that much time, it's basically modular. I will always do jump ropes, but either if I have the time, I add in kettlebell. If I have more time, I add in VR boxing. And I would say if you want like a fun way to do some cardio training, I would argue VR training is amazing. Again, it is. I see it so many times that people don't really or they find a lot of excuses not to work out. And as I said many times before, it's all about kind of building a habit and starting small. But if you can also introduce a fun element like VR, then it is much more likely that you do this on a regular basis. Again, it's not about the intensity, it's not about the length of how much you train, but it's more about making it as easy as possible for you to integrate into your daily life and start really small to build a habit. And once you build that habit, you can build upon that habit and kind of slowly increase the intensity or the length and duration of your workout or whatever you want to do. And yeah, including a fun way like VR is so good. I mean, Beat Saber is also a really good way to kind of get into movements and stuff like that. You don't have to do VR boxing, obviously. So from that perspective alone, I can highly recommend kind of considering a VR headset. And if you also factor in the headset, that is really important. So the BoboVR headset that I bought was 68 euros. So factor this in your purchase when you are considering to buy a VR headset. That is mandatory in my humble opinion. All right, do you have a VR headset? Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts about that. And if you want to see yesterday's video that was about why I am choosing now or trying out to take creatine, not purposely or intentionally for muscle growth, but for my cognitive health, check out the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. That way we see each other in the next video. Thank you very much.